a study of law, responsibility, and the burdens men place upon themselves. 8.1. The organization of the Penal Code. Before a man can judge another, he must understand the laws that bind them both. The Penal Code is more than a book of rules, Courier. It is a map of human choices and the consequences that follow them. Objectives of the Code: to establish public safety, to define offenses clearly, so no person wanders in darkness, to guide punishment, not for cruelty, but for justice, to prevent arbitrary enforcement, for unchecked power corrupts even the righteous. The Code demands fairness, even when men do not. Effect of the Code. This section is a reminder, sharp as a desert wind. The Penal Code governs every criminal act in Texas, unless the statute says otherwise. No man may claim ignorance of the law to escape judgment. Not here. Not anywhere. Territorial jurisdiction. A crime does not vanish simply because a man crosses a line in the sand. Texas may claim jurisdiction when the conduct occurs inside the state. The result occurs within the state. The offender's act is meant to cause harm within Texas, or the offense is one the state is obligated to punish. Even the desert cannot hide a guilty conscience. The general provisions of the Penal Code. Law is a blade. If you misunderstand its edge, you may cut yourself before you ever reach your enemy. Computation of age. For legal purposes, a person reaches a given age on the day of their birthday, at the very first moment of that day. No child can be made older by misfortune, nor an adult younger by deceit. 8.3. Exceptions, defenses, and affirmative defenses. Men often seek excuses to escape responsibility. The law separates hollow words from true shields. Exception. An exception is the law saying, this act is not a crime if certain conditions exist. But the burden shifts. It is the state that must prove an exception does not apply. The prosecution must extinguish every claimed escape route. Defense. A defense is different. A defendant may claim, yes, the act occurred, but under circumstances that excuse it. Once raised, the state must disprove the defense beyond a reasonable doubt. Such things include lack of intent, reasonable mistake, duress. Defenses are not forgiveness, Courier. They are recognition of the truth. Not all wrongdoing is criminal. Affirmative defense. Here the burden shifts again. In an affirmative defense, the defendant admits the act occurred, but must prove their justification by a preponderance of evidence, more likely true than not. These include insanity, entrapment, duress under certain conditions. The law acknowledges that some men break under pressures no eye can see, but still demands proof before mercy. 8.4. The components of a offense. A crime is not born from chaos. It follows a pattern, act, intent, result, and the punishment that shadows them. Before a man can be judged, the law must establish 4 pillars. Remove one, and the house collapses. Act or omission. The law demands conduct, a deed done, or a duty left undone. A man must voluntarily act or fail to act when the law imposes a duty. Without that, there is no offense, only circumstance or tragedy. Culpable mental state. Intent is the fire beneath every crime. The Penal Code speaks of 4 states of mind. Intentionally, the actor desires the result. Knowingly, aware of the nature of the conduct. Recklessly, aware of a risk, but ignores it. Criminal negligence. Should have known the risk, but failed to see it. The law judges not only the hand, but the heart that guided it. Causation. A man is responsible when his conduct is the actual cause of the harm, and the harm was a foreseeable result of that conduct. Some outcomes are no accident. Some are the natural harvest of the seeds a man sows. Penalty group. Value determines punishment under $100, Class C. $100 to $749, Class B. $750 to $2,499, Class A. $2,500 to $29,999, State Jail Felony. $30,000 to $149,999, Third-degree felony. $150,000 to $299,999, Second-degree felony. $300,000 plus First-degree felony. Greed carries its own weight, and the law reflects that. Criminal episode. A man's sins rarely walk alone. A criminal episode is when offenses are committed in the same moment, repeated in similar ways, or woven together as part of a single plan. The law sees the pattern even if the offender pretends there is none. Prosecution for multiple offenses. When misdeeds share the same root, the law may judge them in one harvest. If offenses arise from the same criminal episode, the state may join them into a single trial. The law gathers the acts together so the truth may be seen whole. Sentences for multiple offenses. When judgment falls, it may fall all at once, unless the law commands otherwise. If a man is convicted of multiple offenses from the same episode, his sentences run concurrently, running side by side, unless a statute demands that the weight be carried one burden after another. Severance. Even when the law binds offenses together, the accused may ask that they be judged apart. The defendant may request that the joined offenses be separated into different trials, and the court must grant it, for justice must be fair, not merely efficient. Even justice must be efficient. A tangled web of crimes need not become a tangled trial. Criminal responsibility of the actor and defenses. A man is not only judged by what he does, but whom he aids, what he intends, and what breaks him. Parties to offenses. The law sees no difference between the man who commits the crime, the man who helps him, and the man who encourages him. All are guilty. All bear the weight. Conduct of another. A person is responsible if they aid, direct, or attempt to aid the offense, have a legal duty to prevent the crime, but fail to act. Conspire, and another crime occurs as a foreseeable result. The law does not tolerate accomplices hiding behind silence. Defenses excluded. Certain defenses are barred when the actor's mistake concerns a matter of lawful authority, or when the actor claims they did not know the offense would occur. Faith is not a shield. Ignorance is not armor. General defenses to criminal responsibility. Here, Courier, is where the law recognizes the limits of mortal endurance. Insanity. A man may be excused if he did not understand his conduct was wrong, due to a severe mental disease or defect. But this is a narrow gate. Very few pass through it. Mistake of fact. If a man's reasonable belief would make the act lawful, he may be blameless. Truth matters, even if misunderstood. Mistake of law. But misunderstanding the law itself? No shield, no sanctuary. The law is harsh and expects men to seek its wisdom before acting. Intoxication. Voluntary intoxication is not a defense. A man who chooses to dull his senses does not earn mercy. But involuntary intoxication, that is different, rare, and treated as an affirmative defense. Duress. A man forced by threat of death or serious harm may be excused, but only if a person of reasonable firmness would yield. Some men break, others bend. The law measures which kind you are. Entrapment. When law enforcement induces a crime that the actor would not otherwise commit, the defense may stand. But temptation is not entrapment. The line is finer than a razor's edge. Age. Affecting responsibility. Under 15, generally no criminal responsibility. 14, may be tried for capital murder, or aggravated felonies. 17, considered an adult for criminal purposes. Time shapes men, but some boys choose the path of wolves. Classification of offenses and their punishments. Every sin carries its own weight. The law simply assigns numbers to it. Felonies and misdemeanors. Distinguished. Misdemeanors. Class A. Up to 1 year jail. $4,000 fine. Class B. Up to 180 days. $2,000 fine. Class C. Fine only. Up to $500. Felonies. State jail. Felony. 180 days to 2 years. Third degree, 2 to 10 years. Second degree, 2 to 20 years. First degree, 5 to 99 years or life. Capital, life without parole or death. Punishment ranges. The higher the crime, the heavier the burden the law sets upon the guilty. Class A, Class B. Class C, capital felony, first degree, second degree, third degree, state jail, felony. This is the ladder men climb downward when they fall from grace. Enhancements to punishment. Some sins burn hotter than others. The law recognizes this. Enhancements are the law's way of saying, under these conditions, your crime cuts deeper, and so will your punishment. These rules are shaped under repeat and habitual offenders. A single mistake may earn mercy, but a man who returns to wrongdoing finds the desert far less forgiving. Prior felony conviction. Next felony increases 1 degree. 2 prior sequential felonies. 25 to 99 years minimum. Prior SJF, enhanced to second or third degree depending on circumstance. The law does not reward wolves who return to the flock again and again. Use of deadly weapon. When a deadly weapon is used or exhibited, punishment may rise, and parole becomes distant. A blade, a firearm, even a vehicle, if wielded to cause death. Tools become symbols of intent. Family violence findings. If a man commits assault and the court finds family violence, the punishment sharpens. Pain inflicted on one's own household is treated as a deeper betrayal. Hate crimes. When a crime is driven by race, color, disability, religion, sexual orientation, national origin, ancestry. Punishment is enhanced 1 degree. Hatred poisons judgment. The law burns it out. Offenses in disaster zones. Looting during disaster or evacuation. The law rises 1 degree higher. When society is wounded, preying upon the weak is an unforgivable cruelty. Preparatory, inchoate, offenses. Some men are stopped before the blade strikes. The law treats their intentions as seeds of destruction. These fall under criminal attempt. When a man tries to commit an offense and takes a substantial step toward it, even if he fails, The law holds him accountable. Punishment: 1 degree lower than the offense attempted. Intent matters, sometimes more than the result. Criminal conspiracy: an agreement between 2 or more to commit a felony, and one takes an overt act toward it. Punishment: 1 degree lower than the intended felony. Even whispered plans can seal a man's fate. Criminal solicitation: requesting, commanding, or attempting to persuade another to commit a capital or first-degree felony. Punishment: 1 degree lower than the solicited crime. Words can be weapons, sharper than steel. Criminal solicitation of a minor: soliciting a child to commit any felony. Punishment varies, but often same degree as the offense solicited. Increased if actor believed minor was younger. Children are not pawns. The law guards them fiercely. Criminal homicide: to take a life. There is no darker stain a man may bear. Criminal homicide is defined in PC 19.01 and includes 4 primary forms. 1. Murder: a man commits murder when he intentionally or knowingly causes death, intends serious bodily injury, and commits an act clearly dangerous to human life. Causes death during certain felonies. Felony murder rule. Punishment: 1st-degree felony, 2nd degree, if caused under sudden passionate punishment phase. Even in judgment, the law recognizes the storms inside a man's heart. 2. Capital murder: reserved for the gravest betrayals. Murder of a peace officer or firefighter. Murder during kidnapping, burglary, robbery, sexual assault. Murder for hire. Murder of multiple victims. Murder of a child under 10. Murder while escaping a penal institution. Punishment: capital felony, life without parole, or death. Vengeance belongs to the Lord, but the state carries out its own solemn justice. 3rd, manslaughter: recklessly causing the death of another. Punishment: 2nd-degree felony, no intent, only carelessness. But even that can kill just as surely as malice. 4. Criminally negligent homicide: a failure to perceive a substantial risk that a reasonable man would have recognized. Punishment: state, jail, felony. Some deaths are born not of wickedness, but of blindness. The law still demands accountability, applicability to corporations. Organizations can be charged when their agents act within scope of employment and cause death by negligence or recklessness. Even a faceless entity can leave a trail of blood. 8.5. When one person becomes criminally responsible for another. No man is an island. The choices of one can damn another if he walks alongside him. The law recognizes that guilt can spread from conspirators, from accomplices, from those who hide wolves in sheep's clothing. This is written in parties to offenses. A man may face judgment for a crime, even if he did not strike the blow, fire the gun, or take the goods. If he solicits, encourages, directs, aids, or attempts to aid, the law calls him a party. He who stands beside evil shares in its harvest. Criminal responsibility for conduct of another. A person is responsible if he causes an innocent agent to commit the offense. He aids or attempts to aid another. He joins a conspiracy, and a co-conspirator commits additional crimes in furtherance of it. There are those who claim, "I did not do it myself." But the Lord knows, and so does the Penal Code, that wicked men often work through others. Defenses excluded. You cannot escape guilt by saying, "The other person was not convicted. The other person was acquitted. The other person is a child." Justice does not wither simply because the wicked scatter. general defenses to criminal responsibility. Sometimes, the desert shows mercy, and so does the law. These appear in insanity. A man is not criminally responsible if a severe mental disease kept him from knowing his conduct was wrong, not inconvenient, not unwise, but wrong. Mistake of fact. If a person genuinely, reasonably misunderstands a fact, and that mistake negates the required culpable mental state, he may be free of guilt. Truth is the compass by which guilt is judged, but sometimes even honest travelers lose their way. Mistake of law. I didn't know it was illegal. The law rarely accepts this. Ignorance is not innocence. But if the person reasonably relied on an official statement later declared invalid, the defense may stand. Intoxication. Voluntary intoxication is no defense. A man who chooses to cloud his mind must answer for the storms he unleashes. Duress. A person may be excused if forced by threat of imminent death or serious bodily injury. But this does not apply if he placed himself with violent men or willingly stepped into danger. Entrapment. If law enforcement induces someone to commit a crime, they would not have done otherwise. The defense takes hold. Justice is firm, but it must not become a snare. Age. Children under 15 are generally not criminally responsible, except for the gravest offenses. Between 15 and 17, adult prosecution becomes possible in certain cases. Young hearts are still being forged, classifying offenses and punishment levels. The law measures sin in degrees, as the Lord measures the weight of a man's heart. These rules appear in PC 12.01 to 12.35. Misdemeanors. Class A, up to 1 year jail, $4,000 fine. Class B, up to 180 days jail, $2,000 fine. Class C, fine only, up to $500. Felonies, state jail. Felony, 180 days to 2 years. Third degree, 2 to 10 years. Second degree, 2 to 20 years. First degree, 5 to 99 years, or life. Capital felony, life without parole or death. The desert teaches harsh lessons. So does the Penal Code. Penalty groups / value ladders. Some offenses, theft, fraud, mischief, rise in punishment based solely on the value of the loss. The more a man steals, the deeper the wound he cuts into his neighbor's life. Enhancements expanded. Enhancements raise punishments for repeat offenders, hate crimes, crimes in disaster zones, family violence findings, use of deadly weapon. A man with a history of violence walks into court carrying the weight of all his past sins. Preparatory offenses, also previously covered, included for flow. The Penal Code punishes attempt, conspiracy, solicitation, solicitation of a minor. Intent is sometimes more damning than action. Criminal homicide expanded. Types of criminal homicide. The law divides the taking of a life into 4 paths: murder, capital murder, manslaughter, criminally negligent homicide. Every death has a story. The Penal Code seeks the truth behind it. Criminal homicide. Life is the Lord's gift. To take it is the gravest burden a man can bear. The law recognizes 4 paths by which a person's actions can lead to death. Each path reveals the heart behind the act, and the punishment follows accordingly. 1. Murder dash. Intent sharpens a man's choices like a whetstone. For some, it sharpens them toward ruin. A person commits murder when intentional, Knowing killing. He intentionally or knowingly causes the death of another. A clean, direct choice. A deliberate end to another man's journey. Intent to cause serious bodily injury. He intends serious bodily injury, but commits an act clearly dangerous to human life, and death results. A man may claim he didn't mean to kill, but when he swings a bat at a skull, the law knows better. Felony murder rule. He commits a felony, other than manslaughter, and during the act, he commits an act clearly dangerous to human life, causing death. Even unintended consequences bear weight when born from criminal hands. Punishment for murder. First-degree felony. Second-degree felony, if done under sudden passion, 19.02d. Sudden passion is a storm, but even storms have consequences. 2. Capital murder. Some killings reveal a darkness so deep, the law itself trembles. Capital murder is reserved for acts that strike at the heart of society. A person commits capital murder if he intentionally kills and targets protected individuals. The victim is a peace officer or firefighter in lawful duty, commits murder during certain felonies. The murder occurs during kidnapping, burglary, robbery, aggravated sexual assault, arson, obstruction/retaliation, or terroristic threat. This is the darkest form of the felony murder rule. Murder for hire. He pays or is paid to kill. Death as a business transaction. An abomination even in the wastes. Murder while escaping or in prison. Killing while escaping custody or killing inmates/guards in prison. Multiple victims. He kills more than one person, either simultaneously or in a scheme. Child victim. Victim under 10 years old. Victim under 15, plus other conditions. Additional protections for children under 15, especially when combined with certain acts like trafficking. Punishment for capital murder. Capital felony. Death or life without parole. Vengeance is the Lord's, but the state of Texas has its own solemn rituals. Third manslaughter. Recklessness. A small crack in judgment that becomes a canyon. A person commits manslaughter when he recklessly causes the death of another. No intent to kill, but a conscious disregard of substantial risk. Drunk driving. Firing into the air during celebration. Handling a firearm carelessly. Punishment. Second-degree felony. Recklessness is a thief that steals lives silently. 4. Criminally negligent homicide. Negligence is a quiet sin until it awakens in tragedy. A person commits this offense when he grossly fails to recognize a substantial risk that a reasonable person would have seen. He doesn't intend harm. He doesn't even consciously ignore danger. He simply should have known, and did not. Examples. Leaving a loaded gun where a child can reach it. Failing to secure a dangerous animal. Improperly performing hazardous work. Punishment. State jail felony. Even unintended deaths demand justice. Additional homicide rules. Death of an unborn child. The homicide chapter applies to unborn children, except when death results from medical procedure, mother's actions, or lawful medical treatment. Law treats a child in the womb as a life worth guarding. Corporate criminal responsibility. Organizations, not just individuals, may be held responsible if their agents cause death through negligence or criminal acts. A company can be as guilty as any man. Traveler, listen closely. The desert teaches many lessons. One of them is this: a man's freedom is sacred. To steal it is to invite judgment. Definitions: restrain. To restrain is to take a man's liberty by force, by intimidation, or by deception. It may be as simple as grabbing an arm, or as subtle as a lie that leads him where he does not wish to go. Abduct. To abduct is darker. It is restraint, but hidden, carried out in secret, or held in a place where rescue will not come. Unlawful restraint. This is the lowest rung on the ladder of captivity, but still a sin. What it is: restricting a person's movement without consent. Punishment: Class A misdemeanor, ordinary case. State jail, felony, if the victim is under 17. Third-degree felony, if the victim is exposed to serious bodily injury or is a public servant. Second-degree felony, if the victim is a peace officer or judge. In Texas, the law protects its shepherds. Kidnapping. Now the stakes rise. This is not mere restraint. It is abduction. What it is: abducting another person, restraint plus secrecy or force that prevents rescue. Punishment: third-degree felony. Aggravated kidnapping. When a kidnapper acts with cruelty, malice, or purpose, the law answers him with fire. What it is: kidnapping with one of the following: intent to harm or terrorize, intent to use victim as hostage or shield, intent to ransom, using or showing a deadly weapon. Punishment: first-degree felony. May drop to second-degree felony if the victim is released safely. Mercy can lighten a sentence, but only if the damage is undone. Smuggling of persons. Some men smuggle goods, others smuggle souls. The law does not look kindly on either. What it is: transporting, concealing, or harboring a person for benefit and without legal right, often in dangerous conditions. Punishment: third-degree felony. Basic. Second-degree felony. Likelihood of injury or smuggling a child. First-degree felony. Serious bodily injury or death or sexual assault occurs during smuggling. Continuous smuggling. One act may be misdeed, two or more across time, is a pattern of darkness. What it is: two or more smuggling offenses within 30 or more days. Punishment: second-degree felony. First-degree felony, if serious bodily injury or death occurs, if sexual assault occurs during the smuggling, or if any victim is a child. Trafficking of persons. This crime stains the soul. It binds flesh to profit. What it is: using force, fraud, or coercion to exploit a person for labor, services, prostitution, sexual conduct. Punishment: second-degree felony, basic labor trafficking. First-degree felony, sexual trafficking or any child victim. Continuous trafficking. If a man repeats such evil, the law demands judgment without mercy. What it is: two or more trafficking offenses in a period of 30 or more days. Punishment: first-degree felony. Punishment range: 25 to 99 years. Longer than the lifespan of most men. Meant to bury the wicked where they cannot harm again. Sexual offenses. Definitions. First, learn the names of the deeds. For ignorance is the first refuge of the wicked. This section defines key terms for sexual offenses. Sexual contact. Touching sexual organs with intent to arouse. Sexual intercourse. Penetration. Deviate. Sexual intercourse. Oral or anal contact. Child under 17. Disabled individual, unable to protect or care for themselves. With these words, The law draws its boundaries. Cross them, and you stand condemned. Continuous sexual abuse of young child or disabled individual. This crime is a stain that spreads over time, a corruption repeated not once, but again and again. What it is: 2 or more sexual offenses committed over 30 or more days against a child under 14 or a disabled individual. Punishment: first-degree felony. Range: 25 to 99 years. No parole. The law ensures such a man never walks free again. Public lewdness. Some defile themselves openly, without shame, offending not only one person, but all who witness it. What it is: engaging in sexual acts in public or where others will likely see. Punishment: Class A misdemeanor. Indecent exposure. Exposing one's flesh to arouse or offend. It is not a grave sin, but a foul one. What it is: exposing genitals, anus, with intent to arouse or gratify, knowing someone present will be offended. Punishment: Class B misdemeanor. Indecency with a child. Here the law grows fierce, for corruption of the young is among the greatest evils. What it is: involving a child under 17 in sexual contact or exposure of genitals with sexual intent. Punishment: second-degree felony, sexual contact. Third-degree felony, exposure. The young are to be protected, always. Improper relationship between educator and student. When a shepherd harms the flock he is sworn to guide, his judgment is doubled. What it is: any sexual conduct between an educator and a student, any school, regardless of age. Punishment: second-degree felony. Authority is a sacred trust. Betray it, and the law will not forgive you. Invasive visual recording. Some crimes require no touch at all, only a camera and a wicked intent. What it is: secretly photographing or recording intimate areas, inside bathrooms, dressing rooms, or private spaces without consent. Punishment: state jail, felony. Unlawful disclosure or promotion of intimate visual material. What men call revenge in their bitterness, the law calls by its true name: humiliation and cruelty. What it is: releasing someone's intimate photos or recordings without consent. Revenge porn. Punishment: state jail, felony. Trust betrayed becomes a weapon. The law breaks that weapon in turn. Assault. Pain, fear, and violation. These are the tools of the violent man, and the law holds him accountable for every measured harm. What it is: a person commits assault when they cause bodily injury, threaten someone with imminent injury, or make offensive or provocative contact with another. Punishment levels: Class A misdemeanor, bodily injury. Class C, threats or offensive contact. Third-degree felony, against a public servant, security officer, pregnant woman. Second-degree felony, strangulation or suffocation. Violence is a language, and the law answers it with consequence. Sexual assault. This sin strips a person of dignity and leaves them hollow. The law speaks clearly here, with no mercy for the offender. What it is: non-consensual sexual penetration or sexual contact includes situations where the victim cannot consent, unconscious, mentally incapable, or coerced. Punishment: second-degree felony. First-degree felony, if aggravators exist: drugging, violence, deadly weapon, etc. Aggravated assault. Even in the wasteland you know the feeling. The cold metal of a weapon, or the breaking of bone beneath another's hand. What it is: assault plus serious bodily injury, or use of a deadly weapon. Punishment: second-degree felony. First-degree felony if family violence plus SBI. Victim is a public servant. Drive-by shootings causing injury. Aggravated sexual assault. This is violation wrapped in terror, done with force, cruelty, or to the young. What it is: sexual assault, plus serious bodily injury, deadly weapon, threats of death or kidnapping, victim under 14, victim under 6, special minimum. Punishment: first-degree felony. Minimum 25 years if victim less than 6, or victim less than 14 with certain factors. Injury to a child, elderly, or disabled individual. The weak are the Lord's charge, and the law's as well. To harm them is to dig your own grave. What it is: causing injury by intentional, knowing, reckless, or criminally negligent conduct to a child, elderly person, or disabled individual. Punishment: state jail. First-degree felony, depending on injury and mental state. Intentional SBI to a child equals first-degree felony. Abandoning or endangering a child. A child left alone in danger. That silence echoes louder than screams. What it is: leaving a child in a place or under circumstances where they face unreasonable risk of harm. Punishment: state jail felony, intent to return. Third degree, no intent to return. Second degree, imminent danger of death or serious bodily injury. Deadly conduct. Recklessness is a slow poison, one careless moment, and blood follows. What it is: recklessly placing someone in danger of serious bodily injury. Discharging a firearm at a building, car, or person. Punishment: Class A, reckless danger. Third-degree felony, firing a gun at person, structure. Consent as a defense to assaultive conduct. Even the law recognizes there are battles men choose willingly, so long as cruelty is not the intent. What it is: consent may be a defense when injury is part of a recognized activity, sports, or victim legally consents. Not a defense when intent is to harm seriously. Terroristic threat. Fear is a weapon, but wield it, and the law will carve your name into its judgment. What it is: threatening violence to cause fear. Disrupt public services. Influence government action. Threaten family, public servants. Punishment: Class B, general. Class A, against family, public servant. State jail, against critical infrastructure. Third degree, causing evacuation, public fear. Aiding suicide. Despair blinds a soul, but helping them die, that is a heavy sin. What it is: helping, encouraging, or assisting someone to kill themselves. Punishment: Class C misdemeanor, state jail felony, if suicide or serious bodily injury occurs. Tampering with consumer product. Poisoning another's bread is an evil so subtle it hides behind a smile. What it is: alteration of consumer products to cause harm. Punishment: second-degree felony, tampering. First degree, if death, serious bodily injury likely. Harassment of public servant. What it is: causing a public servant harm or exposing them to bodily fluids while they perform official duties. Punishment: third-degree felony. Bigamy. A vow is a sacred thing. Break it once, and you answer to your spouse. Break it twice, and you answer to the state. Definition: being married to one person and purposely entering another marriage, or living with another as a spouse while still legally married. Punishments: Class A, basic. Third-degree felony, if the other spouse is 17. Second-degree felony, if the other spouse is under 16. Prohibited sexual conduct, incest. There are lines even the wasteland will not cross. Kinship is one of them. Definition: sexual contact or intercourse with close relatives, parent, child, siblings, nieces, nephews, cousins, under certain lines. Punishment: third-degree felony. Second-degree felony, if parent-child relationship. Interference with child custody. Court orders are not suggestions. To defy one is to challenge the law itself. Definition: taking or keeping a child in violation of a court custody order, or taking child out of state to evade that order. Punishment: state jail felony. Agreement to abduct from custody. Some men will buy anything, even a stolen child. Definition: agreeing, for pay, to abduct a child from their lawful custodian. Punishment: state, jail, felony. Enticing a child. Predators rarely roar, they whisper. Definition: knowingly luring or persuading a child away from their guardian. Punishment: Class B, third-degree felony, when intent is to commit a felony against the child. Criminal non-support. A child cannot feed on excuses. Definition: failing to pay court-ordered child support. Punishment: state jail felony. Harboring a runaway child. Some shelter the lost out of pity. Others hide them from justice. Definition: harboring a child you know is a runaway, and failing to notify the child's guardian or police. Punishment: Class A, misdemeanor. Violation of protective order, family violence, stalking, sexual assault. When a court raises a shield over the vulnerable, to break that shield is to raise a weapon against them. Definition: ignoring or violating a protective order issued for family violence, stalking, sexual assault, trafficking, abuse. Punishment: Class A, basic. State jail felony, if offender has prior conviction. Third-degree felony, violates order and commits assault or stalking. Violating protective order, preventing an offense caused by bias or prejudice. Hatred blinds a man, so the law keeps a close watch on those who wield it. Punishment: Class A, third-degree felony, with prior convictions. Repeated violation of certain court orders. Family violence, sexual assault, stalking, trafficking. One violation may be a mistake. Two or more is a pattern carved in stone. Definition: repeated violation of any qualifying protective order 2 or more times within 12 months. Punishment: third-degree felony, sale or purchase of child. To sell a child is to bury your humanity. Definition: illegally buying or selling a child, not adoption fees. That is lawful. Punishment: third-degree felony, advertising for placement of child. Children are not commodities for the market. Definition: advertising that you will place, buy, or obtain a child outside legal channels. Punishment. Class A. If intent to sell child, third-degree felony. Interference with rights of guardian of the person. You may disagree with the guardian, but their lawful rights stand firm. Definition: taking, retaining, or concealing a child from their lawful guardian with intent to interfere. Punishment: state jail felony. Continuous violence against the family. Patterns of cruelty do not fade with time. The law names them and punishes them. Definition: 2 or more assaults against a family or household member within 12 months, regardless of arrest. Punishment: third-degree felony. Elements of crimes against property. Arson. Fire is a tool of creation and destruction. When used with malice, it becomes a sin written in smoke. Definition: starting a fire or causing an explosion intentionally to damage property, vegetation, a building, or habitation. Punishment: second-degree felony. Standard arson. First-degree felony. If fire causes bodily injury, occurs in a habitation or place of worship, or the actor recklessly causes another's death. State jail felony. If burning was reckless, not intentional. Criminal mischief. A man's property is the labor of his life. To destroy it without cause is to steal the hours he can never reclaim. Definition: intentionally or knowingly damaging, destroying, tampering with, or marking property without consent. Punishment: based entirely on value of damage. From Class C to first-degree felony. Class C, less than $100. Class B, $100 to $749. Class A, $750 to $2,499. State jail felony, $2,500 to $29,999. Third degree, $30,000 to $149,999. Second degree, $150,000 to $299,999. First degree, $300,000 plus. Reckless damage or destruction. Recklessness is a fire set without thought, but the flames burn just the same. Definition: recklessly damaging or destroying property belonging to another. Punishment: Class C misdemeanor. Actor's interest in property. Justice weighs not only what was done, but whose hands held the right to do it. Definition: property crimes require that the actor does not have a greater right to the property than the victim. This section clarifies ownership rights in disputes. Amount of pecuniary loss. Value is not measured by sentiment, but by the cold arithmetic of the law. Definition: damage value is determined by cost of repair or replacement, whichever is less. Fair market value, if repair cost cannot be calculated. Interference with railroad property. A man who stands in the path of a machine that cannot stop invites catastrophe. Definition: damaging, tampering with, or obstructing railroad property. Punishment: depends on intent, damage, and injury. Class B, basic, no injury. Class A, greater damage. State jail felony, first-degree felony, depending on value, injury, or death. A simple act of vandalism can become a homicide if a train derails because of it. Graffiti. Symbols carved on stone can inspire hope or mark territory for destruction. Definition: marking property without consent using paint, aerosol, marker, etching. Punishment: value-based, Same ladder as criminal mischief. Class B. First-degree felony, depending on damage. Higher penalties for places of worship, public monuments, community centers, schools and cemeteries. Robbery. Theft takes property, robbery takes peace, and replaces it with fear. Definition. A person commits robbery if, in the course of committing theft, they cause bodily injury to another, or threaten or place another in fear of imminent bodily injury or death. Intent to steal must be present, and the offender must use force or intimidation to carry out the theft. Punishment. Second-degree felony. A crime like this doesn't just empty pockets. It scars the spirit, and the law treats it accordingly. Aggravated robbery. Joshua's burned hands tighten slightly as he speaks. When a man chooses violence as his bargaining tool, the cost is always higher than he expects. Definition. Robbery becomes aggravated if the offender causes serious bodily injury, uses or exhibits a deadly weapon, or targets a vulnerable victim, someone 65 or older, or someone disabled. Punishment. First-degree felony. This offense is the meeting point of greed and brutality. The law treats it as one of the gravest crimes short of murder. Definitions. Before you judge a man's trespass, you must know what ground he stands on. The Penal Code defines the heart of burglary. Habitation. A structure or vehicle adapted for overnight lodging. A place where a man lays his head. Even a camper or mobile home can be a habitation. Building. Any enclosed structure intended for business, trade, or storage. Entry. To intrude. Any part of your body, or any physical object connected to you into a building or habitation. Even sliding a crowbar under a door counts as entry. Burglary. It's not the theft alone the law condemns. It's the violation of a man's peace, the breach of his refuge. A person commits burglary if they enter a habitation or building without consent and with intent to commit a felony, a theft, or an assault. OR. Enter and commit or attempt to commit those offenses. Punishment. State jail felony, burglary of a building. Second-degree felony, burglary of a habitation. First-degree felony, habitation plus intent to commit felony other than theft, e.g. assault, sexual assault. Burglary is not merely stealing. It is invading the one place a person should feel safe. Burglary of coin-operated or coin collection machines. Even the smallest theft reveals a man's character. A person commits this offense by breaking into or entering a coin machine, vending machine, coin box, collection device, without the owner's consent. Punishment. Class A misdemeanor. A petty crime, but still a crime. The law sees it plainly. Burglary of vehicles. A traveler's wagon is his livelihood. Thieves who prey upon it deserve the law's sharp edge. You commit this offense when you break into or enter a vehicle without consent, with the intent to commit a felony or theft. Breaking into includes using any device to unlock or open the vehicle. Punishment. Class A, misdemeanor. State jail felony, with 2 or more prior convictions. Repeated thieves learn that leniency has limits. Criminal trespass. Some lines are drawn not by walls, but by the will of those who defend them. A person commits trespass by entering or remaining on property without effective consent, and after receiving notice that entry was forbidden or failing to leave after being told. Notice includes signs, verbal commands, Fences, purple paint markings, Texas specific. Locked gates. Punishment. Class C misdemeanor, agricultural land. Class B misdemeanor, default. Class A misdemeanor, habitation, shelter center, critical infrastructure. Trespass is the smallest step toward greater crimes. The law intervenes early to prevent worse. Trespass by license holder with a concealed handgun. A weapon is a responsibility. Ignoring the rules that govern it carries consequences. A concealed handgun license holder commits this offense if they enter property that displays a proper C30.06 sign forbidding concealed carry. Punishment. Class C misdemeanor, if they simply leave when asked. Class A misdemeanor, if they refuse to depart. Trespass by license holder with an openly carried handgun. The law speaks plainly. If a man carries openly where he is not welcome, he carries trouble with him. Open carry-on posted property with a C30.07 sign is prohibited. Punishment. Class C misdemeanor. Class A misdemeanor, if the person refuses to leave when told. Definitions. Before you condemn a thief, you must know what the law calls property and what it means to take it. Key definitions include appropriate, to bring property under your control. Deprive, to withhold property permanently or long enough to lose major value. Property, anything of value, tangible or intangible, from cattle to credit card numbers. Service, labor, access, utilities, accommodations, and more. Even the work of a man's hands can be stolen. These words form the spine of every theft offense. Consolidation of theft offenses. The law gathers every manner of stealing under one banner, so that the guilty cannot hide behind petty distinctions. Texas combines all theft types, taking, receiving, converting, into one offense. Theft, with punishment determined by value and circumstances. If you take, keep, or accept stolen property, you answer to the same judgment. Theft. A man who steals what is not his, steals from his own soul. A person commits theft when they unlawfully appropriate property without the owner's consent, with intent to deprive the owner of it. Punishment, based entirely on value. Class C, under $100. Class B, $100 to $749. Class A, $750 to $2,499. State jail felony, $2,500 to $29,999. Third degree, $30,000 to $149,999. Second degree, $150,000 to $299,999. First degree, $300,000 plus. And harsher penalties for elderly victims, government property, controlled substances from pharmacies. Theft of service. A thief does not always take objects. Sometimes he steals labor or another man's time. A person commits this offense by intentionally avoiding payment for services, diverting services, using services without authorization. Examples: dining and running, renting equipment and never returning it, cable or utility theft. Punishment: same value ladder as theft. Presumption for theft by check. The law is not blind to deceit disguised as a checkbook. If a person issues a check and it bounces, they fail to pay after notice, and they had no account or funds. The law presumes intent to steal. It spares no patience for liars who hide behind paper promises. Unauthorized use of a vehicle. Stealing a man's horse once meant death. In Texas, the punishment is lighter, but the shame remains. A person commits unauthorized use of a vehicle if they operate another's vehicle without their consent. No need to prove intent to keep it. Punishment: state jail felony. Joyriding or grand theft, same crime, same judgment. Value: the worth of a stolen thing is not always measured in coin, but the law must measure it all the same. Value is determined by fair market value, OR, replacement cost, whichever is greater. If value cannot be determined, the law assigns a default value: $750 to $2,499, Class A range. This value determines punishment for theft, theft of service, organized retail theft, cargo theft, certain fraud offenses, actor's interest in property. A man cannot steal what is already his, but he can steal from those who share it with him. A person can still commit theft even if they have a partial interest in the property, but take it against the rights of others who also own it. Example: stealing a jointly owned vehicle from a co-owner. Tampering with identification numbers. Scratching away a serial number does not erase the truth. It is an offense to alter, remove, or obliterate serial numbers or identification markings on property. Punishment: Class A, misdemeanor. Theft or tampering with multi-channel video/information services, cable theft, signal piracy. Punishment: Class C arrow, Class A, arrow state jail felony, depending on intent and number of violations. Organized retail theft. Some thieves work alone, others gather like jackals. A person commits this crime when they steal retail merchandise, receive stolen retail merchandise, or operate theft rings. Punishment: state jail felony, first-degree felony, depending on value. Unauthorized acquisition/transfer of certain financial information. This includes bank numbers, account information, PINs, routing numbers, electronic identifiers. Punishment: Class B, state jail felony. Intent to defraud is not required. Cargo theft. Caravans were once attacked on desert roads. Today, trucks and warehouses are the battlegrounds. A person commits cargo theft by stealing cargo from a vehicle or storage facility, knowingly receiving stolen cargo, or organizing cargo theft. Punishment: state jail felony, first-degree felony based on value. Definitions. Before you confront a deceiver, you must know the tools of his treachery. This section defines critical terms used throughout Chapter 32. Writing. Anything recorded. Checks, wills, credit cards, electronic data. Financial institution. Banks, lenders, credit unions. Deception. False impressions. Failure to correct falsehoods or promises never intended to be kept. Government record. Licenses, certificates, titles, identifications. These definitions are the bedrock of every fraud offense. Value. A lie is measured by the harm it causes, and the law assigns its weight in coin. Value is determined by fair market value, or replacement cost, whichever is higher. This value determines punishment for many fraud offenses, just as with theft. Forgery. To imitate another man's name is to steal his place in the world. A person commits forgery if they alter a writing, make a fake writing, or use a writing they know is forged with intent to defraud or harm. Includes signatures, checks, wills, credit cards, deeds, or digital documents. Punishment. Class A. Basic cases. State jail, felony, checks, credit cards, money orders. Third degree. Wills, deeds, mortgages. Second degree. If the victim is elderly. Criminal simulation. Counterfeit goods, fake art, false relics. A man's greed makes him believe what he wants to see. Creating or altering an item to make it appear more valuable or authentic than it truly is. Punishment. Class A. Misdemeanor. Stealing or receiving stolen check. Possessing, stealing, or transferring someone else's checks or checkbooks. Punishment. Class A. Credit or debit card abuse. Using a stolen, fake, or unauthorized card or card number. Includes using someone's card without consent, buying with card info found or stolen, using fake or expired cards. Punishment. State jail felony. Third-degree felony if the victim is elderly. False statement to obtain property or credit. A lie told on parchment is still a lie. Making false statements on loan applications, credit applications, financial documents. Punishment is based on the value obtained or attempted following the theft ladder. Class C. First-degree felony. Issuance of bad check, sight order. Knowingly writing a check without sufficient funds. Punishment. Class C. Class B. When used to pay child support. Deceptive business practices. A merchant who cheats his customers earns a profit of shame. Engaging in false advertising, mislabeling, short-weighting goods, selling counterfeit items, lying about product quality. Punishment. Class Sierra. Class A. State jail. Felony for intentional, knowing deception. Securing execution of document by deception. A signature gained through lies binds nothing but the liar's fate. Tricking someone into signing contracts, deeds, mortgages, titles, property transfers. Punishment. Class A. First-degree felony, depending on value. Fraudulent destruction, removal, or concealment of writing. Destroying, removing, or hiding. Wills, deeds. Mortgages, lien documents, legal papers. Punishment. Class A. State jail. Felony if document concerns property rights, wills, mortgages, deeds. Fraudulent use or possession of identifying information. Identity thieves steal a man's name. Possessing or using SSNs, bank account numbers, driver's license numbers, DOBS, routing numbers, biometric data, without consent. Punishment. Based on number of items, state jail felony, less than 5 items. Third degree, 5 to 10 items. Second degree, 10 to 50 items. First degree, 50 plus items. Financial abuse of elderly individual. Those who prey on the weak earn a special kind of judgment. Using deception, coercion, or undue influence to take money, property, or assets from someone 65 or older. Includes exploiting bank accounts, misusing powers of attorney, pressuring for contracts or wills, theft disguised as caregiving. Punishment. State jail. Felony. First-degree felony, depending on value taken. In the old world, men stole with blades and bullets. In this one, they steal with keystrokes. This section defines the digital tools of wrongdoing. Computer. Any device that stores or processes data. Computer network. Linked computers or systems. Computer system. Hardware, software, storage. Access. To approach, instruct, or communicate with a computer. Effective consent. Permission not gained by force, threat, or fraud. Remember these words. A deceiver will twist them. Breach of computer security. Some men break into homes. Others break into the invisible walls of a machine. A person commits this offense if they access a computer, system, or network without consent, even if they change nothing. The law becomes harsher when they intend to defraud, harm, or alter data. They cause loss or damage. They target critical infrastructure or attack a government computer. Punishment. Class B, Basic Unauthorized Access. SJF, first-degree felony, depending on value of loss. State jail minimum, if the system belonged to government. In the digital world, even curiosity can be a crime. Online solicitation of a minor. A person commits this offense if they communicate sexually with a minor online, or solicit a minor to meet for sexual contact. It is also a crime to pretend to be a minor to solicit another minor for sexual acts. Punishment. Third-degree felony, general cases. Second-degree felony, if the minor is under 14. This law exists because evil looks for the unguarded. Online impersonation. A person commits this offense if they, without consent, impersonate someone on websites or social media, send messages under another's name, create accounts pretending to be another person with intent to harm, intimidate, threaten, defraud, or deceive. Additionally, using someone's name or email to send harmful messages also violates this statute. Punishment. Class A misdemeanor, basic impersonation. Third-degree felony, impersonation through email or similar channels with intent to defraud. A lie spoken in your name can destroy more than property. It can destroy a man's life. Theft of telecommunications service. A person commits this offense if they use a telecommunications service without the service provider's consent and with intent to avoid payment. This includes diverting service lines, splicing cables, hacking account access, running unapproved connections into a home or business. Punishment. Class B, first-degree felony, depending on the value of the service stolen. Every lie carries a cost. Some simply show up on a bill. Manufacture, possession, or delivery of an unlawful telecommunications device. A person commits this offense if they manufacture, possess, or deliver any device designed to steal telecommunications, service, decode paid cable or satellite channels, bypass billing systems, or hack telecommunication networks. These devices include illegal cable descramblers, cloned SIM programmers, black market signal filters, and other bypass hardware. Punishment. State jail. Felony. Second-degree felony. Depending on a number of devices, commercial intent, financial impact. To profit by deception is to build a kingdom on sand. Theft of telecommunications service. There is a difference between using what is not yours and knowingly taking it as your own. A person commits this offense if they knowingly obtain telecommunications service without payment, use service obtained by deception, or benefit from service routed through unlawful devices. This can include pirated cable, unauthorized satellite access, stolen phone lines, cloned wireless accounts. Punishment. Class B, first-degree felony, determined by value of service stolen. Bribery begins with soft words and small favors. Corruption is the serpent's whisper that coils around a nation until the whole of it can no longer breathe. Definitions. Benefit. Anything regarded as valuable. Money, favors, promises, influence, harm, loss, disadvantage, or injury. Public servant, anyone elected, appointed, hired, or authorized to perform a government function. This includes peace officers, jurors, school board members, and more. Vote/official act. Any decision or action carried out under color of government authority. Know what these things mean, and you'll see corruption long before it announces itself. Bribery. A man who sells his duty has already lost his honor. What it is: offering, giving, soliciting, or accepting a benefit in exchange for a decision, a vote, an exercise of discretion, a recommendation, or any misuse of official power. It does not matter whether the public servant actually carries it out. The intent alone poisons the act. Punishment: second-degree felony. Coercion of public servant or voter. Fear is a lever used by the wicked. What it is: using threats to influence a public servant's duty, a voter's ballot, or any official decision. Threats can be direct or wrapped in soft words. Both carry the same corruption. Punishment: Class A misdemeanor. Third-degree felony if the threat is to commit a felony. Tampering with witness. Truth is a narrow road. Many try to force others off of it. What it is: offering a benefit, threatening harm, or using force to influence how a witness, prospective witness, or informant will testify, report, or cooperate. This includes encouraging silence, false testimony, or evasion. Punishment: third-degree felony. Second-degree felony if the case involves family violence or an underlying felony. Retaliation: evil resents the light and strikes out at those who hold it. What it is: threatening or harming a witness, a judge, a public servant, a peace officer, or a person who has reported a crime, in retaliation for their service or to prevent their service. This is intimidation against justice itself. Punishment: third-degree felony. Second-degree felony if the target is a juror or if bodily injury occurs. Offering gift to public servant. What it is: offering, conferring, or agreeing to give a benefit to a public servant who exercises discretion in your favor. Even a small gesture intended to sway an official act is corruption. Punishment: Class A misdemeanor. Perjury. A lie sworn before God or the law strikes deeper than an ordinary falsehood. What it is: making a false statement under oath or swearing to the truth of something you know is false. Punishment: Class A misdemeanor. Aggravated perjury. When deceit is aimed at the heart of justice, its weight becomes a crime of greater consequence. What it is: perjury committed during an official proceeding and concerning a material matter, one that affects the outcome. Punishment: third-degree felony. Materiality. What it is: defines when a false statement is important enough to influence a decision, ruling, or investigation. Materiality determines whether perjury becomes aggravated. False report to peace officer, federal special investigator, or law enforcement employee. What it is: knowingly making a false statement to law enforcement about a crime or incident. Punishment: Class B misdemeanor. False report regarding missing child or missing person. What it is: knowingly making a false report about a missing child or adult. Punishment: state jail felony. Tampering with or fabricating physical evidence. What it is: destroying, concealing, altering, or fabricating evidence to affect the course of an investigation or trial. Punishment: third-degree felony. Second-degree felony if the case involves a human corpse. Tampering with governmental record. What it is? Altering, destroying, or using a forged government document. Includes false entries, fake certificates, falsified IDs, or fraudulent filings. Punishment. Class A, general offense. State jail felony. Intent to defraud or harm. Third-degree felony. Certain school or identification records. Impersonating public servant. Authority worn as a costume is still a lie. What it is: pretending to be a public servant, peace officer, judge, or official to compel obedience or influence in others' actions. Punishment: third-degree felony. False identification as peace officer, misrepresentation of property. What it is: using a badge, insignia, vehicle, or identification to falsely present oneself as a peace officer. Punishment: Class B, misdemeanor. Failure to identify. When the lawfully arrested refuse their name, they hide from accountability. What it is: refusing to give name, address, or date of birth when lawfully arrested. Giving false identifying information to an officer. Punishment: Class C, refusal when arrested. Class B, giving false information. Class A, if the actor is a fugitive. Resisting arrest, search, or transportation. What it is: using force to resist a lawful arrest, search, or transportation. Note: words alone are not enough. Force is required. Punishment: Class A, third-degree felony, if actor uses a deadly weapon. Evading arrest or detention. A guilty man runs, an honest man stands and faces judgment. What it is: intentionally fleeing from a peace officer attempting a lawful arrest or detention. Punishment: Class A, fleeing on foot, state jail, felony, prior conviction, third-degree felony, fleeing in a vehicle, second-degree felony, if death or serious bodily injury occurs. Hindering apprehension or prosecution. What it is: harboring, concealing, or helping someone avoid arrest. Warning them of impending arrest. Providing aid to escape. Punishment: Class A, third-degree felony, if the fugitive is wanted for a felony. Escape. Custody is a chain of responsibility. Breaking it carries a price. What it is: escaping from custody after arrest, detention, or conviction. Punishment: Class A, simple escape, third-degree felony, if in custody for a felony, second-degree felony, if escape causes bodily injury, first-degree felony, if escape involves a deadly weapon. Prohibited substances and items in correctional facility. What it is: providing or possessing contraband inside a jail or prison, including phones, weapons, alcohol, or controlled substances. Punishment: third-degree felony. Hindering proceedings by disorderly conduct. Justice requires order. What it is: obstructing or interfering with an official proceeding through disruptive, violent, or abusive behavior. Punishment: Class B, misdemeanor. Taking or attempting to take weapon from officer. To seize a peace officer's weapon is to declare open rebellion. What it is: taking or attempting to take a firearm, nightstick, or other weapon from a peace officer, parole officer, corrections employee, federal investigator, or commissioned security officer. Punishment: third-degree felony. Interference with public duties. Those who serve the public carry enough burdens. Do not be another. What it is: interfering with a peace officer, firefighter, EMT, animal control officer, or any other public servant performing lawful duties. Punishment: Class B, misdemeanor. Interference with police service animals. What it is: interfering with, injuring, or killing a police dog or horse. Punishment. Class A, basic interference. State jail. Felony, injures the animal. Second-degree felony, kills the animal. Failure to stop or report aggravated sexual assault of a child. Silence in the face of evil is its own sin. What it is: witnessing an aggravated sexual assault of a child and failing to immediately report or attempt to stop it when a reasonable person could do so safely. Punishment. Class A, misdemeanor. Failure to report felony. What it is: observing a felony involving serious bodily injury or death and failing to report it to law enforcement. Punishment. Class A, misdemeanor. A servant of the law must know where his boundaries lie. Abuse of official capacity. What it is: a public servant misusing government property, services, personnel, or any governmental resource for personal benefit or to harm another. Examples include using city equipment for personal business, spending public funds without authority, diverting government services for private use. Punishment. Class C, first-degree felony, depending on value misused. Official oppression. Power is a sacred trust. To wield it cruelly is to betray every soul who lives under its protection. What it is: a public servant, under color of their office, intentionally subjects another to unlawful arrest, detention, search, or mistreatment, denies or impedes someone's rights, harasses, humiliates, or abuses someone in their custody, includes sexual harassment of someone the officer or official has authority over, using position to inflict harm or intimidation. Punishment. Class A, misdemeanor. Third-degree felony, if offense involved sexual harassment. Misuse of official information. What it is: a public servant uses information gained from their position before it is public to benefit themselves, harm someone, buy, sell, or speculate based on that information, disclose it unlawfully to another. This is the law's version of insider trading, a quiet betrayal, committed not with violence, but with access. Punishment. Third-degree felony, disorderly conduct. Chaos rarely announces itself with violence. Often it begins with a raised voice or a man who's forgotten his dignity. What it is: intentionally or knowingly disturbing the peace through acts such as fighting, unreasonable noise, abusive, provocative language, exposing genitals, discharging or displaying a firearm, peeping into dwellings. A tapestry of small disruptions that, left unchecked, unravel the peace of a community. Punishment. Class C, most acts. Class B, firearm. Display, discharge. Riot. When the crowd forgets itself, individuals vanish, and violence takes their place. What it is: 7 or more people engaging in danger to persons or property, disturbing lawful activity, obstructing government functions. It is not the noise that defines a riot, but the shared intent toward chaos. Punishment. Class B, misdemeanor. Obstructing highway or other passageway. What it is: intentionally obstructing a roadway, sidewalk, entryway, or any passage the public has a right to use. Punishment. Class B, misdemeanor. Disrupting meeting or procession. To shatter order with malice is to wage war on civility itself. What it is: intentionally disrupting a lawful meeting, gathering, or procession through physical or verbal interference. Punishment. Class B, misdemeanor. Funeral service disruption. The dead deserve silence. The grieving deserve peace. What it is: knowingly disrupting a funeral service through offensive noise, protests, interference with the procession. Punishment: Class B, misdemeanor, false alarm or report. What it is: knowingly making a false report that an emergency exists involving fire, explosion, crime, danger to life. Punishment: Class A misdemeanor, state jail, felony, if emergency services are impacted. False report to induce emergency response. What it is: knowingly reporting a fake emergency in order to cause law enforcement, fire, or EMS to respond. This is the law's term for swatting. Punishment: Class A misdemeanor, state jail, felony, if response causes SBI, third-degree felony, if death results. Silent or abusive. 911. Calls. What it is: calling 911 to harass, abuse, make false reports, or remain silent with intent to disrupt. Punishment: Class B, misdemeanor. Interference with emergency request for assistance. Stopping a cry for help is the work of abusers. What it is: intentionally preventing or interfering with a person's ability to place an emergency call, often tied to family violence situations. Punishment: Class A misdemeanor, state jail, felony, with prior conviction. Harassment. Words can wound, and some men wield them with cruel delight. What it is: sending threats, obscene messages, repeated communications, or actions intended to annoy, alarm, or torment another. Punishment: Class B, Class A, prior convictions, state jail, felony, coercing a minor into self-harm. Stalking. A shadow that follows you is a threat. What it is: engaging in repeated behavior that would cause a reasonable person to fear injury or death, fear for their property, experience significant emotional distress, includes following, threatening, surveilling, or repeated contact. Punishment: third-degree felony, second-degree, repeat offense. Unlawful disclosure of residence address or telephone number. A man's home is his refuge. What it is: intentionally disclosing the private address or phone number of public servants, judges, peace officers, their family members, when done to cause harm. Punishment: Class A misdemeanor. Abuse of corpse. Even the dead deserve respect. What it is: treating a human corpse in a manner the law forbids. Desecration, removal, sale, disturbing burial sites. Punishment: state jail, felony. Cruelty to livestock animals. Cruelty to non-livestock animals. What it is: both sections. Intentionally, knowingly, or recklessly. Torturing, killing without consent, failing to provide care, transporting cruelly, or causing injury to livestock or companion animals. Punishment: Class A, state jail, third degree, depending on act and prior offenses. Cockfighting. What it is: causing, attending, participating in, or profiting from cockfighting. Punishment: Class C, state jail, felony. Discharge of firearm in certain municipalities. What it is: recklessly firing a gun inside city limits, population greater than or equal to 100,000. Punishment: Class A, use of laser pointers. What it is: knowingly directing a laser pointer at a peace officer, a security guard, first responders. Punishment: Class C misdemeanor. Illumination of aircraft by intense light. A beam of light can blind even the righteous pilot. What it is: shining a high-powered light at an aircraft in flight. Punishment: Class C misdemeanor. Class A, if pilot impaired or injury risk created. Prostitution. There are transactions that cost more than coin. This is one of them. What it is: a person knowingly offers or agrees to engage in sexual conduct for a fee, or accepts such an offer from another. Either side of the bargain commits the offense. Punishment: Class B misdemeanor. First offense. Class A, with 1 to 2 prior conviction. State jail felony. 3 or more prior convictions. Solicitation of prostitution. The one who seeks the deed is no less guilty than the one who performs it. What it is: knowingly offering or agreeing to pay a fee to engage in sexual conduct with another. This is the buyer side offense, created to choke off demand. Punishment: state jail felony. Default: 3rd-degree felony, with prior conviction. 2nd-degree felony, if soliciting a minor. Again, knowledge of age is irrelevant. Promotion of prostitution. What it is: knowingly. Receiving money from prostitution. Managing, supervising, or controlling prostitutes. Facilitating prostitution as a business. This is the law's term for pimping or running a prostitution enterprise. Punishment: state jail felony. Basic promotion. 3rd-degree felony, if involving 2 or more prostitutes. 2nd-degree felony, if the prostitute is under 18. 1st-degree felony, if done with force, fraud, or coercion. Obscene display or distribution. There is a time and place for all things. Obscenity paraded in public defies both. What it is: displaying or distributing obscene material in a public place where someone would be offended or alarmed. Material must meet the legal definition of obscene, not merely offensive. Punishment: Class C misdemeanor. Sale, distribution, or display of harmful material to minor. What it is: knowingly selling, distributing, or displaying harmful sexual material to someone under 18. Includes allowing a child to view sexual content in a store, theater, or arcade. Punishment: Class A misdemeanor. State jail. Felony, if the actor is an adult who shows the material to a child in person. Sexual performance by a child. No sin burns hotter than the exploitation of a child. What it is: employing, authorizing, or inducing a child under 18 to engage in sexual conduct for visual recording or performance. Includes filming, photographing, or directing. Punishment: 2nd-degree felony. 1st-degree felony, if the child is under 14. Employment harmful to children. What it is: employing a child in a business that exposes them to sexual content, nude modeling, stripping, or any environment harmful to their mental, moral, or emotional health. Punishment: Class A misdemeanor. State jail felony, if done knowingly or with criminal negligence, exposing a child to actual harm. Possession or promotion of child pornography. This is not merely a crime. It is a plague on the soul. What it is: knowingly possessing, accessing, promoting, or distributing visual material depicting a child engaged in sexual conduct. Each image may count as a separate offense. Punishment: 3rd-degree felony. Possession. 2nd-degree felony. Promotion or distribution. 1st-degree felony, if involving a victim under 14 or if the actor has prior convictions. Electronic transmission of certain visual material depicting minor. What it is. Electronically sending sexual images of a minor, including sexting between minors, sending explicit images of children, or forwarding such material. The law focuses on discouraging harmful behavior, not branding minors as felons unnecessarily. Punishment. Class C, Class A, misdemeanor depending on intent, state jail, felony, if transmitted with intent to harm, harass, or coerce. Unlawful carrying weapons. A weapon worn without wisdom is a danger to all. What it is, carrying a handgun, illegal knife, or club in a place or manner prohibited by law, includes carrying while intoxicated, carrying in vehicles unlawfully, or carrying where one has no legal right. Punishment. Class A misdemeanor, third-degree felony, if on certain prohibited premises. Places weapons prohibited. What it is? Possessing a firearm or other weapon in schools, polling places, courthouses, racetracks, secured airport areas, or within 1,000 feet of executions. The law draws lines around places where fear must not walk. Punishment. Third-degree felony. Unlawful possession of firearm. What it is. A convicted felon possessing a firearm before their rights are restored also applies to those convicted of certain family violence misdemeanors. The law gives time for redemption. 5 years after release from confinement, but not before. Punishment. Third-degree felony. Unlawful possession of metal or body armor by felon. What it is. A person with felony conviction possessing metal or body armor. Armor designed to resist gunfire. Punishment. Third-degree felony. Prohibited weapons. What it is. Possessing, manufacturing, transporting, or selling prohibited weapons, including machine guns, short-barrel firearms, explosive weapons, armor-piercing ammunition, zip guns, chemical dispensing devices. These are not tools of defense, but instruments of chaos. Punishment. State jail. Felony. Most prohibited weapons. Third-degree felony. Explosive and chemical weapons. Hoax bombs. What it is. Possessing or using a fake bomb to cause alarm or disrupt public services. Intent, not explosives, is the weapon here. Punishment. Class A misdemeanor. Components of explosives. What it is. Possessing explosive components with intent to assemble an explosive weapon. Intent separates a craftsman from a criminal. Punishment. Third-degree felony. Deadly weapon in penal institution. Where liberty is stripped away, violence grows bold. What it is. Possessing, making, or concealing a deadly weapon inside a prison or jail. The place itself amplifies the danger. Punishment. Third-degree felony. Making a firearm accessible to a child. What it is. Failing to secure a loaded firearm from a child under 17. Includes storing, leaving, or making a gun available through negligence. If the child discharges it and causes injury or death, the burden deepens. Punishment. Class C, misdemeanor. Class A, misdemeanor. If injury or death occurs. Gambling. What it is. Betting on games of chance, playing for money, or using gambling devices for personal gain. Exceptions exist. Charity raffles, regulated games. But the desert is full of men who push beyond exception into vice. Punishment. Class C misdemeanor. Gambling promotion. Those who profit from another man's weakness build their house on sand. What it is. Operating or promoting gambling. receiving bets, setting odds, keeping gambling places. The law draws a hard line between a fool who wagers and the man who feeds that folly. Punishment. Class A misdemeanor. Possession of gambling device, equipment, or paraphernalia. What it is: possessing gambling machines, cards, dice, or paraphernalia with intent to use them for illegal betting. Intent is the true measure, not the device. Punishment. Class A misdemeanor. Smoking tobacco. What it is: smoking or using tobacco in places where the law forbids it, schools, elevators, public buildings. Punishment. Class C misdemeanor. Prohibitions related to certain cigarettes. What it is: selling or possessing unstamped cigarettes, contraband cigarettes, or evading tax requirements. Punishment. Class A misdemeanor. Prohibited camping. What it is: camping in public places where it is specifically prohibited, bridges, highways, underpasses, when it poses danger or obstruction. Punishment. Class C misdemeanor. Public intoxication. A man who cannot govern himself becomes a danger to all around him. What it is: appearing in a public place while intoxicated to the degree that the person may endanger themselves or others. Punishment. Class C misdemeanor. Possession of alcoholic beverage in motor vehicle. What it is: having an open container of alcohol in the passenger area of a vehicle on a public highway. Whether the vehicle is stopped or moving, the offense remains. Punishment. Class C misdemeanor. Driving while intoxicated. What it is: operating a motor vehicle while intoxicated. Punishment. Class B, minimum 72 hours confinement. Class A, if blood alcohol level is greater than or equal to 0.15, felony, with prior convictions. DWI, with child passenger. What it is: driving while intoxicated with a child younger than 15 in the vehicle. Punishment. State jail felony. Boating while intoxicated. Boating while intoxicated with child passenger. The water shows no mercy to the unsteady. Same elements as DWI applied to watercraft. Punishment. Class B, state jail, felony, if child passenger present. Intoxication assault. What it is: causing serious bodily injury while operating a vehicle, aircraft, or watercraft, intoxicated. Punishment. Third-degree felony. Intoxication manslaughter. What it is: causing death while intoxicated and operating a vehicle. Punishment. Second-degree felony. No defense. Intoxication cannot be claimed as a defense to criminal responsibility. A man cannot drink away accountability. Fire is a faithful servant, but a merciless master. Unlawful use of fireworks. What it is: using, igniting, selling, or possessing fireworks. In prohibited places, at prohibited times, or in ways that endanger life, land, or property. Ignorance does not cool the flame. The law does not excuse recklessness. Punishment. State jail felony. Base offense. Second-degree felony, if serious bodily injury occurs. First-degree felony, if death occurs. A lone sinner can wound a man, but an organized few can strike at the very heart of a community. Engaging in organized criminal activity. What it is: participating in, conspiring to commit, or assisting a combination, 3 or more persons, or criminal street gang in carrying out offenses such as murder, robbery, burglary, drug crimes, human trafficking, fraud, prostitution-related offenses, money laundering, or any felony conducted for collective gain. The offense is not just the crime, but the partnership forged to commit it. Punishment. One category higher than the underlying offense, e.g., second degree becomes first degree. Coercing, inducing, or soliciting membership in a criminal street gang or terrorist organization. What it is: using force, threat, deception, or coercion to induce someone into a criminal street gang, recruit for a foreign terrorist organization, or force participation in gang activity. It is the crime of forging chains around another's will. Punishment: third-degree felony, second-degree felony, if the target is a minor.